Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing an ARK Dino tier list including some modded dinos. Dinos will be ranked on how liked they are by the community and myself of course, how useful they are, and how annoying they are. So let's begin with the Achatina. Now the Achatina is the snail you can find around the swamp biomes, and it's tamed with sweet veggie cakes. It generates cementing paste passively up to about 100, I believe, in organic polymer. It can be a pain to tame because, you gotta make the sweet veggie cakes, which are kind of expensive. You need honey for that as well. And then also when it curls up into its shell, it's gonna take, I believe it's 10 times less damage. So if you get it a little too low, good luck knocking it out after that. So the Achatina, I'll probably have to put in a C tier. Next, I believe this is the Acrocanthosaurus, which is a modded creature from Editions Ascended, made by Garuga123, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And the Acrocanthosaurus has an adrenaline kind of ability. I've not had much experience with it, as I typically don't play with mods, but I do understand it, some of its abilities, and I've seen it out in the wild. While I don't know much about it, I'll still try and give it a ranking. I'm probably just going to throw it up in A tier, although I don't know much about it. I do know it's good, though. Now we have the Allosaurus, which is your pack creature, a little smaller than a Rex, a little bigger than a Carno. Allosaurus kind of suck. I think they kind of suck. I'm not one of those people that says, hey, they're underrated. I actually gave them a chance once, and they disappointed. They don't do much damage, and they don't have terribly much health. Their footsteps are also insanely loud, and they're just not worth taming. And let's be honest here. If this was rated based off how dangerous they are in the wild, I'd put them up in S tier because, oh my, these guys are far scarier than any wild Rex out in the wild. They can catch you, they'll bleed you and make you go slow, and they'll slaughter you like an animal. But I'm basing this more around like tamed versions and like you riding them, you actually using them. So for that, I'm probably gonna have to put this Allosaurus in B tier. Next up, we got the Amargasaurus, and this is a Lost Island native creature. I've not had much experience with it myself, but I do know that it has armor negating attacks. It can kind of ignore armor. It can shoot ice and heat kind of projectiles. Now, the problem with this is, especially if you've watched Ross Clark, you know he struggles badly with the Amarg taming, and a lot of people do. I think the taming for it kind of sucks, and though I don't have much experience with it, I'm probably going to have to throw it in B tier as well. Next up, we have the Ammonite. These drop ammonite bile, which can be used to make darts to lure other creatures to. When you hit it, it makes all creatures around you aggro like a rare flower would. They can drop black pearls and things of that sort, deep sea resources. They cannot be tamed though, so with that in mind, I'll probably have to put this one in probably a D tier. It doesn't have much of a use. It's almost useless. Next up, we have the Andrewsarchus, a Fjordur creature. And the Andrewsarchus has a saddle which has a minigun on top of it. It allows you to breathe underwater, run underwater, and kind of do drifts and sprints with it. It is also a mammal and can be ridden with or without a saddle. For those reasons, I'm definitely going to be putting it in A tier, probably even above the Acrocanthosaurus. Now next up we have the anglerfish. Anglerfish is kind of a shockingly painful tame. It needs quite a few darts and it actually wakes up relatively quickly. So it's not as easy of a tame as some of the other sea creatures. And it drops angler gel, which burns for quite a while. Though it doesn't, it still might not be as good as wood because obviously it doesn't produce the byproduct of charcoal. You also need angler gel to tame mantas as well, so that's something that they can provide as well. And of course they collect silica pearls as well. That's their main thing here, is that they collect silica pearls. Uh, and for that, I believe I'll probably have to put this one in the top of C tier, because all it does is collect silica pearls, which are honestly not that useful on other maps. It doesn't collect anything else. It's a pain to tame as well, and it doesn't exactly look very nice now, does it? And next up, we have the Anki. We all know the Anki. It collects metal. It has a bite attack. It's pretty slow. It has, I believe, 75% weight reduction on metal. Yeah, easy A tier. Probably above these two, because metal is always a resource you're going to need. It's not an S tier, though, because there are better alternatives, which we should probably end up getting to later. Next, we have the Aranio. Aranio is just a cave spider, which if you've gone in any cave, you're going to see an Aranio. Now, I kind of forget how they're tamed. I think that you passive tame them with spoiled meat and stuff like that. Some with these cave creatures. Yeah, no one really tames them. It shoots webs to slow things down as its main ability. It doesn't even climb on walls for some reason, though. For that, I will have to put it in D tier as well. Next up, we have the Archaeopteryx, which is found around like the redwoods on the island and in Sanctuary on Extinction, places like that. The Archaeopteryx is just a worse than Nomocrops, let's be honest. You have to hold it with your hands, and it doesn't even have a glide mode. You can't land softly. Sonoma Crops far exceeds the Archaeopteryx here. Honestly, I have to put in D tier. I would put in F, but it actually does have some uses. You can get really creative with an Archaeopteryx. They're not useless. I'll stand by that. Next up, we have the Archelon, which is also an Additions Ascending creature, though it came to the main game just a couple months ago. It in its vanilla form now. It has a 4-seat saddle, and it gives oxygen passively. It has a jellyfish killer buff, which heavily buffs it from killing Nidaria in the water. So it obviously doesn't get stunned by it, and same with eels, it doesn't get stunned by those either. So the fact that this has 4 seats, gives oxygen, and isn't affected by these electric sea creatures, yeah, that's going to have to be an A tier. Probably, for me, I'll probably have to put it above these two. Probably not as good as the Anki, though. Though the big thing about the Archelon is it really just opens you up to deep sea exploration. Keeps you very safe on it. You feel safe on this thing. It can also possibly soak turrets as well. And it's just a passive tame. It's quite easy. Next up we have the RG. Instant S tier. That's not even a question. It can carry 2 creatures at a time, a medium-sized creature in its talons and a small-sized creature in its mouth. It has lots of stamina. It has lots of weight. It has lots of weight reductions. It has a built-in smithy. It has health regeneration when harvesting a corpse. I can't even think of everything. It also, the downsides are that it is slow, and actually I can't think of many other downsides other than it's just kind of slow. They also can be good fighters. If you breed an RG army to fight the Desert Titan, that might not be a horrible idea. They're not exactly very weak, and with that health regeneration effect, they can do some work. All right, next up we have another cave-dwelling bug, the Arthropleura. If you've ever done, I think it was the Desert Cave on Extinction. I did one with a Giga once, and it traumatized me. Also, Swamp Cave traumatized me because of these guys. I remember doing Swamp Cave, and these things, their venom shot me, and it broke all my armor. And of course, it broke my gas mask as well, and I couldn't breathe, so I was pretty dead. And they caused me to lose all my loot on several different occasions. They also have reflection damage as well, which is terrifying, especially if you're on a Giga. If you hit one of these or a Kentrosaurus, you will possibly get that Giga into rage mode. This also can break tech structures as well, up to tech structures in PvP. So for those reasons, I'll probably have to put that the Arthropleura in probably A tier. Yeah, right here. Okay. Next up, we have the Astrocetus. It's a Genesis 1 creature found in the space biome. I don't have much experience with this. I've not had terribly much experience with Genesis 1 and 2, especially since, obviously with Ark Survival Ascended, we've not had those maps in a long time. But I do know it has firing abilities, and it's a tame that's knocked out using cannons, I believe, as well. I can't really give much of an opinion on this, but I'll put it in the bottom of A tier. I know it's not bad, and I know it's not the best either. Next up, we also have the Astrodelphus, a Genesis 2 creature, kind of similar to the Astrocetus. It's literally like a fighter plane. It flies quite fast. It shoots. Very useful in PvP. I'll probably put this. I'll just put it next to the Astrocetus, probably above it even. Next, we have what are these even called again? Yeah, I forget what they're called, but you find them in like the Overseer fight. They do nothing. I'm throwing this in F tier. They kind of do nothing. They're not even tameable. They're just there to be there. Next up, the Baryonyx. Baryonyx is very good underwater. It has a tail swipe attack, which dismounts everything. If you've ever been slaughtered by a Baryonyx, you know. They also regenerate health very, very quickly when in water, when killing fish, that is. It can also jump too, and I don't believe it has an oxygen stat as well, so pretty mutatable. So for that, the Baryonyx is probably going to have to go in A tier above... probably here, because it's just such a good cave runner. It will get you every artifact on the island, no problem. It really just does it for you. Alright, next up we have the Basilisk, an aberration creature. Tamed by throwing rock drake eggs at it and letting it eat it. These guys, I believe they have a weight reduction on stone, weirdly enough. That's kind of strange, I think. They have a spinning attack as well. They can also burrow and, move while underground as well. That's pretty notable. Yeah, taming is kind of a pain because I find it kind of crazy that you need to throw rock drake eggs at this, which kind of implies that it's better than a rock drake, which it's not. I'll probably place this in the bottom of A tier. It's not terrible at all. And also, they made them breedable in ASA now, too. So that's very, very worth noting. Next, we have the Basilosaurus. S tier. Below the RG, but S tier. The Basilosaurus is incredible. If you've never tamed one, do it now. They don't even take... They don't get electrocuted like Archelon here. They do good damage. They give insulation buffs to the rider. And you're right, they do good damage. They have about 20,000-ish health. Like, if you've ever tamed a 150, they have a ton of health. If you go to the surface also, they start regenerating health a little faster as well. They're superior, or I believe actually, they're an exceptional kibble tame. They're just a passive tame, so they're very easy. There is probably no better sea creature than the Basilosaurus right here. So, easy S tier. Next, we have the Beelzebufo, or Beazle Buffalo, as some people like to call it. It spawns in the swamp. It has a torpor-inducing attack. It's pretty easy to tame. You can bowl it. I'll have to put this in probably B tier, above the Allosaurus, so it actually has use. If you've ever gone to Swamp Cave with one of these, you're never going to need cementing paste ever again. You can make all those ascendant saddles you've ever wanted just by doing that. Alright, next up we have, I believe this is just the giant queen bee, and this is Bela from Fjordur. I believe so. I'm not actually sure, but I'm gonna assume this is Bela from Fjordur. It's kind of a mini boss from Fjordur. You can use a Giga on it if you like. I think the bosses, I'll rank them in terms of difficulty. So Bela probably B tier. You can bring Gigas. That kind of reduces it quite a lot. And I believe this is the giant queen bee, though I believe this is an alphabetical order, so I don't know. Maybe this is also Bela. I'm just going to assume this is also Bela and just put it in the same spot. This is not my tier list. I just found this. I obviously didn't have the time to put all this together, so luckily someone else made it. I believe this is... hold on, what is that? Those are the bugs from Genesis 1. F tier. Next, we have the Bloodstalker. Honestly, what have I done? Honestly, I'll put this in S tier. Yeah, I'll put it in S tier. Very cool, very fun to use. Useful in PvP as well. You can grab players. You tame it with blood packs on Genesis 1. Bit of a pain to tame, but they're breedable, and yeah, very useful in PvP. It's literally Spider-Man. Very fun to use. Next up, we have another modded creature from Editions Ascended, which is I believe is the Brachiosaurus. Pretty useful. It has two modes, a harvesting and attacking mode. It has a fear roar, which affects even Gigas. I'll probably have to place the Brachiosaurus here. The reason I keep the Arthropleura higher than some of these guys here is because it's just so useful in PvP. It's it just doesn't have a contender. Maybe this even deserves S tier, honestly. It is an underrated dino. PvE not so useful. PvP, this is very useful. But anyways, the Brachiosaurus I'm gonna put here. The Brontosaurus, poor thing, bottom of D tier. You know, it's better than it's better than these two here. But yeah, that's gonna have to be a D tier. And I'll put it above the Ammonite as well. Actually, what am I doing? Alright. It just gathers berries. It has a platform saddle. It doesn't do much other than that. It's very outdated. They really need to do some TLCs on these old dinos. I'm begging for it. They're adding so many new dinos, but they're not redoing the old ones. It creates a weird dynamic where there are just some really weird outdated creatures, and then there's all these new creatures, and the outdated creatures get ignored. Alright, next up we have another boss, the Broodmother. I'm probably gonna, in terms of difficulty, top of A tier, because wow, in ASA, I don't know if they changed something, man, but it does so much damage now. You need Ascendant Saddles, Imprint, maybe even Gigantoraptor bonding. You need a lot. These guys are... This is not a joke. It took me a powerful Dinosaurs army to even kill this thing. You might honestly... You might... I don't know if you needed to do this in ASE, but in ASA, you might genuinely need to breed a Megatherium army, because this... The Broodmother is not a joke. Next we have the Bulbdog, a light pet from Aberration. I'll throw all the light pets in B tier, I suppose, because... yeah, I'll throw them all in B tier. Carbonomies. I'm gonna put that in D tier. Genuinely, I think it's worse than the Archaeopteryx and Aranio and Ammonite. It's kind of useless. It can soak in PvP. Honestly, that's its saving grace. But other than that, like, what does it do? It spawns on like most maps. It's kind of everywhere on the beaches, and yet no one tames them. The Archelon really puts the Carbonomies to shame. Next up, we have the Carcharodontosaurus. This is genuinely an S tier, but where on the S tier? Let's see. I think we might need to move the RG. Now let's keep the RG where it is. I think the Carchar is probably worse than the Basilosaurus, but the Carchar is such a good tame. It is just a Giga but better. In my humble opinion, I think it's just the Giga but better. It does like everything better than the Giga. It has so many effects. It's fast. It's easy to tame even. I consider it honestly easy to tame. It's shockingly easy. Next up, we have the Carnotaurus, an outdated creature as well. It has a bleed attack. That's really all it's got going for it. It has very loud footsteps on ASC. I'd say if you haven't tamed a Carno in a while, I'd recommend it, honestly. I tamed one on Extinction, and they've been shockingly useful, honestly. They're not as weak as I thought. I never tamed them, but if you haven't tamed a Carno, I mean, give it a shot. They're not that good, but I'll still say give it a shot. So I'll have to put it probably in the top of C tier. Alright, next up we have the Castoroids, the beaver. So they just get wood. They're honestly more useful out in the wild because, they make the beaver dams. But tamed, probably, probably here. I genuinely think it's more useful than Allosaurus. Maybe, I don't know if it's more useful than an Amargasaurus. Again, I don't have much experience with that. But it's a wood gatherer, but honestly, once you get a mammoth, the beaver is useless. I think the mammoth is just the better version of the beaver. I used to tame only beavers, but ever since I tried out a mammoth, these guys are honestly no match. They're just no match for the mammoth. Alright, next we have another Editions Ascended Dino, the Ceratosaurus. They have a blood venom attack. They can heal themselves and other carnivores. They do pretty good damage. They heal themselves. They have pretty good health. They need extraordinary kibble, interestingly enough. And for some reason, it has its own engram for taming. The Hemogoblin cocktail. I don't know what's called Hemogoblin, but anyways, the fact that they made an engram for it is so bad. I think it's so unhealthy for the game. If you have an engram just for taming one dino, like, it's crazy. I think if they had the Helicoprion, I believe it's pronounced. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the sawtooth kind of shark from Editions Ascended. I believe on that mod they have an ammonite bile kind of trait there. I think stuff like that is terrible. We should not be flooding the engrams with random things to feed to tame dinos. We need to reuse old stuff that doesn't get much use anymore. Again, this point of let's revitalize the old stuff. Let's not just keep adding new stuff to the pot. Let's just revitalize the old stuff. Honestly, they should have made this tameable with a beer, not a Hemogoblin cocktail. They could have revitalized beer a little more, rather than just being for soaking in Chalicotheriums and Dinotheriums and such. Not that beer is useless, but they should have made this be tamed with beer, honestly. But other than that, I'm probably going to have to put this in the bottom of S tier. They're actually very good boss fighting dinos. They shred, honestly, and they heal themselves too. which is kind of crazy. Not much else to say. I think it's very unfortunate that it's an engram based tame, but other than that, I believe it deserves its spot in the bottom of S tier. Next up, the Chalicotherium, tamed by using beer. It's a passive tame. It gets aggressive, but only when you get really close to it. It throws poop. It throws rocks, I think, too. It gathers berries pretty good, though, I'll say. To be honest, I don't know anyone who tames these. They're never tamed. I don't think they're even useless, but they're never tamed. Well, I have to put this in the top of C tier, honestly. By the time you get like beer, you got better stuff. Like, do you need this to collect berries for you? The best thing it can do really is to throw rocks and stuff like that. Honestly, other than that, it doesn't have much of a use. And rock golems can also throw rocks, and they do it better. So these guys are just kind of useless, if we're being honest here. Next up, what even is that? Okay. I genuinely don't know what that is. I'll just ignore that. Okay, next we have the coelacanth. Fish found in water. Of course, it's found in water, but it's passive. Passive. It doesn't attack when you attack it. I'm putting this in bottom of D tier. It's not good to feed to tame like otters and things like shadow manes because I suppose because it's passive, it's not the best for taming, and it doesn't have any use. It just gives fish meat. It just exists to exist. All right, next we have the Compy found on the beaches that just kind of walk up to you and stare at you for some reason, begging to be tamed, even though no one tames them. You need prime meat for some reason. Very strange, and they don't really do anything. Honestly, bottom of F tier, they're just literally useless. Oh, next we have the Corrupted Master Controller. Probably at the top of S tier. I think this might be the hardest boss in ARK. It genuinely might be the hardest boss. You need a lot of like med brews, you need good tames, you need to know what you're doing as well. It's a pretty specific boss fight. It's not just a DPS race. And you need to do, especially if you're doing this on Alpha, of course, you got to do all the Gen 1 missions, some of which are impossible to do solo, which is crazy. I hope they rebalance it in the remaster in ASA. But yeah, I think this is genuinely the hardest boss. I believe this is I think this is just supposed to be the... I don't know if this is just the Tropical Wyvern. I think this is the Tropical Wyvern, and this is the boss on Crystal Isles. Though I've never played Crystal Isles. It feels like such a dead map, to be honest. I don't like it. But I have obviously tamed me a Crystal Wyvern. I'm lagging a bit here, but Crystal Wyverns are good. Especially, I think the Tropical one might be the best. When you touch water with it, it gets a speed boost. I'll have to put that in A tier, probably. Yeah. Probably like right there. I've never actually fought this boss. I don't think Crystal Isles is that good of a map. I think it's kind of overrated. I'll put it in B tier. Next up we have the Daedon. Very good healing dino. It's literally a war pig. It's Hog Rider, if you'd like to call it that. You need to feed a ton, and it doesn't do too much healing. I also think the Daedon is kind of overrated. Honestly, unpopular opinion, I think it's overrated. I don't think it's worth it to have a Daedon in your boss army. Honestly, it's probably more worth it to have a Ceratosaurus in your boss army than a Daedon. Nevertheless, though, I'm going to put the Daedon probably up here in front of these guys, but below these guys. It has its use. It also, it's not a terrible tame to ride on as well, to use like that. It jumps, things like that. It's very kibble tame. It has a headshot. Though you have to like shoot its chin to hit that headshot. And next up we have a Deathworm from Scorched Earth. They drop black pearls, deathworm horns. What else? Organic poly, a little bit. I think, in Scorched Earth, they're probably, in terms of what they provide you by killing them and the value they bring to Scorched Earth, I think they are, and I guess I'll put them in the top of A tier. They're kind of vital to Scorch. Without them, Scorch would be honestly maybe a little too dead, because it has the least amount of creatures in the game, Scorched Earth, and it has sand everywhere. There's nothing but sand. There are no other biomes to go to. For that reason, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to put that in A tier. It just provides too much value to Scorched. So yeah. And next up, we have a defense unit from Extinction. These guys attack dinos, all dinos, but they don't attack players. They protect humans. But the problem is you're going to be riding dinos, so they're going to attack you. So they're probably mostly just going to be aggressive. They're kind of cool, honestly. When you kill them and harvest their corpse, you get scrap metal and element dust, things like that. I think they're not terrible. I'll put them in the top of C tier. They're not even tameable as well. Oh, we have the Deinonychus from Valguero. I think I'll put this in the top of A tier. I don't think it's S tier worthy. Though I have seen some people fight bosses with it, solo even. I just don't think it's quite at S tier, because they have terrible stats. Yeah, okay, so they have terrible stats. Their climbing mechanic is like absolutely broken. It doesn't even work. It's so bugged out. I think it deserves a spot, but actually I'll move it up to S tier, probably below the Ceratosaurus though. But yeah, I think bottom S tier is quite a fine spot for it. Next, I think these are kind of outdated images. These are from Evolved, I believe. I think this is supposed to be the Dinosuchus, which also came to ARK Survival Ascended. It's definitely an S tier, above the Ceratosaurus. These guys do so much damage. They're shockingly easy to tame. They have a lot of utility. They can turn they could turn very fast. They swim underwater. They don't have an oxygen stat, so they're easy to mutate. Their gigabyte is absurd. Honestly, let's be honest here, it kind of needs to be nerfed. It does the broken bones effect, which, it's just crazy, honestly. Their gigabyte needs to be nerfed. I think that's the biggest thing about them that needs to be nerfed. Their base stats are also insane. You can have a Dinosuchus with around 10k-ish health after tame, which is crazy to start out with, honestly. It really is. Their weight is also good. I believe it's about 800-ish. And the Dinosuchus is just a very, very good tame. If you've not tried it, what are you doing? You got to try this. I beat all the Island Guardians and the Overseer on Alpha with these guys. These guys were my army. They really got me through that, especially that Broodmother fight. Next up, we have the Dinotherium. It's another ARK Editions creature. Now, I've not had much experience with them. I know you need to tame them with beer, and I know they have a pretty interesting looking saddle as well. I'll just put them in bottom of A, but I can't really speak on that, so I'm just going to leave them there. Next, we have the Desert Titan. I think the Desert Titan deserves a spot, honestly, maybe in S tier. The only Titan that can fly, the only Titan that really can reach those skyscraper bases that you'll find on PvP. Really, it's very helpful on PvP for those kinds of things, when you have those bases on top of the sanctuary buildings. It is a pain to tame though, and unfortunately you won't be able to use your Dreadnoughtus and things like that on it, or a mech to tame it. I'd recommend, honestly, I think the cheap way, and honestly maybe even the best way, is just to use a snow owl and just swoop. You got to be careful though, because you're gonna have the flock and everything on you. If you have the resources and the time, putting together a Quetzal and using that strategy can be even more beneficial, honestly. All right. Another Fjorder dino, the Desmodus. It hangs from ceilings. You have to let it grab you. You have to feed it blood packs, as well as your own dinos to increase taming effectiveness. It's basically the same taming as the Bloodstalker. They fly quite well. They have a night vision mode. They have a screech to detect dinos as well on top of that. They have also the biggest thing about them is that, well, obviously they harvest blood just from attacking things and spoiled meat. And the biggest thing about them is that they have a crafting item in their inventory when you saddle them, the Sanguine Elixir. When you feed tame the Sanguine Elixir while it's taming, it will add plus 30% taming progress to that tame. Similarly, when you are raising a dino and you drink and you feed it a Sanguine Elixir, you will give it 30% plus. You will give it a 30% imprint bonus as well. For that reason, and all the abilities that it has, the Desmodus is such a valuable asset. You need to tame one. It's non-negotiable. So I'll probably have to put this above, probably one above the Bloodstalker. I think the Desmodus is better than the Bloodstalker. I think that's safe to say, though that might be a little contentious. It can also pick people up as well, so quite helpful in PvP. The Dilophosaur, not rideable. Their venom, their spit attack is actually not that bad. If you're ever, I honestly, if you're the kind of person, which is I think everyone, who doesn't tame Dilophosaurs ever, I honestly encourage you to give it a shot. Honestly, they're actually not that useless in early game, because if you tame one, you can whistle it on like things like Brontos, like things like Carnos, anything dangerous, and it will slow it down, which just lets you kill it quite easily. And they're very easy to tame and very easy to kill. They provide very helpful hide in the early game as well. So the Dilophosaur is probably going to have to be probably around here. Alright. The Dimetrodon found in the swamps. This guy, he's very beautiful looking, but he doesn't exactly do much. It just serves as an AC when you level up melee. It is just there to be an AC. Other than that, it does nothing. Not even rideable as well. So I'll probably have to put this guy in F tier right here. Actually, I'll move the compy up as well, because these guys aren't even tameable and they don't really do anything. So I'll move the compy up even. But yeah, he is definitely an F tier dino. Next we have the why did I forget what they're called? Wait, why did I forget? Bro, why did I forget? You're right. I think these guys are called Dimetrodon. Wait, what? Which one's which? No, these guys are not called Dimetrodons. Bro, why did I forget their name? Alright, anyways, these guys, I still know what they do, but I don't know why I forgot the name. They fly around. You can bowl them. You can tame them as a shoulder pet. Their main ability really is that they can hit people off their tames and break their armor, absolutely shred it. If you have a flock of these, it might be pretty funny to whistle them on someone who's on a Giga thinking they're all safe. They will shred. Other than that, not very useful though. So probably bottom of C tier. I think it's honestly even more useful than like a Bronto or Archaeopteryx. Probably not useful. More useful than an Achatina though. Next up we have the Dinopithecus. found on the Lost Island. I think this deserves a spot in. Let's see. Probably A tier right here. They do good damage. They can throw their poop as well. They climb. Their taming, taming method is actually pretty interesting, and I think I like it honestly. They jump as well pretty good. They have very good stats as well. Like, honestly, you should give these guys a shot if you haven't. The Dinopithecus King right here is the boss of Lost Island. I think he's just kind of your average boss. I don't think he's anything very exceptional. Probably I'll put it underbreed, I guess. Next we have the Diplocaulus. It has good oxygen. It doesn't really attack things though. It looks kind of funny. It can help open the path to ocean exploration, but the problem with that is that it's found in the swamp. So if you're going there, you probably have something better by then. I'll put this guy in C tier right here. Next, the Diplodocus. It doesn't do any damage actually, which is strange, and a pretty big dino. Can be tamed 2 ways, interestingly. You can either passive tame it or knockout tame it. It has, I believe, a 12-seat saddle, so it's literally a bus. I'll put it in C tier. It's kind of useless, but it has good kind of recreational purposes. It's fun to use probably on your PvE servers and such. And its knockback ability is maybe a little bit underrated. I think it can have some uses, but the Diplodocus is not that good of a tame. I'm not going to make much of an argument for it here. Next, the Dire Bear. I think people don't tame the Dire Bear as much as they want to. I feel like people want to tame it, but they don't. It does very good damage, like insane damage, like Rex level damage. It collects honey. It's fairly small. You can stand on the back of it as well. Collects berries and fiber quite well as also. A little problem with it though, it's not that easy to find. It can kill you very quickly, of course, in the wild. And taming it can be kind of a pain because with a crossbow, which is probably what a lot of people use, you actually have a pretty high chance of killing it. It's one of the few tames where a crossbow might kill it. Like, it has a pretty high chance to do so. So you might need a long neck to get these guys down. Other than that, honestly, especially in Aberration, I think these guys are a very vital asset on Aberration. I think these guys, they deserve, honestly, a spot in high A tier. They really do. Probably even above the Brachiosaurus there. The reason, again, why I keep Arthropleura so high is because there's no alternative to it in PvP. It's almost irreplaceable. There's replacements for it, of course, but there's not quite a dino like the Arthropleura in PvP. But yeah, the Dire Bear deserves its spot in mid to high A tier. The Direwolf. I think the Direwolf is kind of underrated. They're not that hard to tame because headshot bonus. These guys are an absolute glass cannon. They take so much damage because they don't have a saddle and stuff. But these guys do so much damage. Their damage output is just so disproportionate to their health. I think for that, I'll put them in the bottom of A tier. Yeah, good early game tame as well. They can sniff out explorer notes as well, which is very unique. I don't think any other tame does that, so that's good on them. Dodo, easy, top of S tier. Doedicurus, it harvests stone, similar to the Yankee. So I'll probably put it. Should I put it above or below? I think I'll put it one above the Yankee, because stone and stuff, it's not as useful as metal. But the Yankee, it can curl up. It can break the lampposts on extinction to harvest very good crystal and element dust. It rolls as well. Maybe I should put it below though. You know, it just kind of feels illegal to put it on top of, like, over the Anki. Because, I mean, the Anki gets metal. You're always going to need metal. So I'm going to just leave it like that. Dragon, I'll put that in S tier. Not above the Dodo, though. The Dodo is irreplaceable. Because Dragon is very difficult. It's one of those bosses where, yeah, it's... Oh, wait. I just realized I put it above Master Controller. I think Master Controller is more difficult than Dragon. But Dragon is still very notably difficult. It's Fire Breath attack, and the fact that there's lava in the arena, yeah, you got to be careful about that. The Dragon also flies up as well. It's not just a simple DPS race with this one. You got to actually, like, use your brain. You can sneak under its body, though, and hit its legs, and it cannot attack back. So if you find the right spot, you can exploit that. You can choose the Dragon that way. Other than that, though, he's not going to let you pass. You shall not pass. The Dreadnoughts came out recently on Extinction Ascended. Wow, I'm shocked by them. The fact that after taming, they have 200,000 health. I don't know how no one else is shocked by that. That's such an insane amount of health. That's like boss level health. They have a platform saddle too with multiple levels, very unique. They can spit cannonballs, which can one-shot knock out rock golems and titanos. Not titanos though, but it almost one-shots those kinds of knockout tames. Dreadnoughtus is not to be ignored. If you're going to beat Extinction, you need Dreadnoughtus on your team. So it's an S tier, but... I will put it here. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Okay, that seems alright. Next we have the Dung Beetle. In ASA, it passively collects poop on the floor. It's not that hard to tame. Other than that, it doesn't really do anything. But for that, it can help you set up, your gardens and stuff. Because of that, it gets you fertilizer. Especially when you set up to wander as well, it can passively generate oil. So I'm probably gonna have to put this guy. I'll put him one below the Akatina. I still think the Akatina is a little better, though it's a little hard to tame. The Akatina just generates better resources than oil and fertilizer. Next, the Dunkleosteus. Almost nobody tames this. I think a big reason why, they don't even spawn. I was on the island oceans for so long. I only saw 2. Like, after being in the island oceans for weeks, I only saw 2. They're useful, though. Don't get me wrong. They are useful. They collect metal and stone underwater, which is very unique. Only problem is they don't really put metal and stuff underwater. I really think they should. I think they should revitalize underwater biomes. I think them adding, new underwater creatures is not good enough. They gotta, add resources underwater. There needs to be something more interesting to do underwater. Underwater in the oceans, there's almost nothing to do. But the Dunkleosteus, I think it deserves a spot in A tier, but not high in A tier. Definitely not very high. I think I'll put them here. Electrophorus, not... actually, they are tameable, but they're useless. They don't do anything. A passive tame, shockingly, even though they're highly aggressive. They just stun you. They basically make your day worse. That's it. I'll put this at the top of F tier. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. We have the Enforcer, another Extinction Dino. Or I guess it's not a dino, but you craft it by killing Enforcers in Sanctuary. It does, I believe, 4 times damage to corrupted creatures. It has a teleport ability too, can climb. Actually, pretty helpful. I'll put this one guy in the top of B tier. Can help you get started on those element veins and OSDs. Not very high levels though. Oh, Equus. I think its biggest downfall is that it needs to be tamed with the Rock Carrot. I think that's its biggest downfall, because by the time you're at that point, you probably don't really need it. I think that really is its biggest downfall, honestly. But that aside, I think they're quite handy. I'll put them above the direwolf here, in lower A tier. Can knock out creatures, mobile mortar and pestle. You don't need a saddle to ride them, though it's recommended. They also have the, let's not forget, they also have the lasso to pull unconscious creatures out of bad situations, which is better than, like the Balrig's harpoon, because it won't damage the effectiveness. It's useful, but it's a little misplaced in the creature hierarchy, I think, when it comes to what they need for taming. They really should make these more easy to tame early on, because the next best thing is, Mijo berries, and that will annihilate your taming effectiveness, and you'll take 5 years to tame them. I think that's very, very sad about these guys. Very unfortunate. Next, what are these guys even called again? I forget what these guys are called, but so they knock you out. These guys, I believe they are on a Genesis 2, around that Rockwell kind of biome. These guys will absolutely knock you out. They can drop black pearls and stuff, but other than that, not much. I think they're stronger than the Ammonite. Probably less useful than the Ammonite, though, so I'll keep the Ammonite above it, but they're basically in the same spot. They're almost the same creature. They're not very different. Next, the Facilosuchus came out with Scorched Earth on ASA. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I think the Facilosuchus was a disappointment. It attacks so slow, and I mean, I think that's the biggest problem I have with it, honestly. It just attacks so slow. It has that armor degrading ability. It has that debris attack, so that you can't hit back. It's good, but I think because of that attack speed, it's really a shame. Though I think not all creatures should have good attack speed. So honestly, I don't think. I might have to take that back. I don't think they're so bad as well. They harvest flint. They're kind of a pain to tame, depending on the experience you've had with it. But I kind of take that back. They're not so bad, but I'll put them here. All right. Next up, the Featherlight, a light pet found in Aberrations Red Zone. I'll put them. Put it above the Bulldog because it can fly, and I guess it looks cooler than the Bulldog. It's rarer. Most people won't have it because it's in the red zone by that time. Next we got Fenrir. I believe this is just the tamed version, and this is the boss here. So this guy is just a refrigerator. He can refrigerate things like wyvern milk and things that wouldn't be able to be refrigerated otherwise. Very hard to tame, though, because you need to beat Fenrir Sulfur. I don't think they're that useful, though I've never tamed one myself. I'll just throw him here. Fenrir, I believe that is an S tier boss. I'm not sure if it's harder than Master Controller, but from the videos I've watched, it looks to be a very tough boss as the final map of ASC. I suppose it's quite fitting, huh? Next, we have the Ferox from Genesis 1, tamed passively with Element. Becomes absolutely shredded once you feed it Element. Can jump, can, think they're breedable, yeah. Also a shoulder pet when they shrink. This was like the OG Pyromane, really. I'll put them... I will put them in A tier, right there. I think just things like Dodix and Enkis are just more useful. They're just above it. But I think that's a fine spot for it. Next, the Fjordhawk. I think this is an S tier, honestly. It's It's irreplaceable. It's very unique. It's an insane ability. When you die and you have a Fjord Hawk on you, it will bring your bag to you when you respawn. Insane, right? I honestly think this shouldn't be in the game. I think this is insane. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when you die near wild Fjordhawks, they take your loot, so your loot is like gone. So that's kind of crazy. I'll put them above. I mean, though in the end game you can get your loot back from most places pretty easily. I'll put them above Deinonychus. I'll put them there. I think they deserve that. They deserve an S tier. Next to the Forest Titan, I actually think the Forest Titan's quite good. I'll put it right under Desert Titan. Actually, I think I'm overestimating Desert Titan a little bit. I'm only putting it a bit higher because it can fly. No other Titan does that. But Forest Titan is good. They also gave it a little tiny TLC in ASA where it can you can turn by holding the left bumper on controllers. I think left control on keyboard and mouse. They also made it look a little better in ASA. But yeah, its block attack is unique to it. Next to the gacha. Passively generates resources. You can make pretty crazy farms with these guys. They need snowball pellets, and they get buffs like that. They generate you loot as well with resources. I'll put these guys in S tier probably, but where? I've never really had like a gacha farm going. Like I've never had any crazy gacha farm, but I know they're good, and I know that they're just one of a kind. There's no other creature quite like them. So I'll probably have to put these guys in maybe above the RG. I mean, yeah, I guess. You know, I'm not very comfortable with this placement, but I'm going to leave it because I don't know better. Next, the Gallimimus. I think the Gallimimus is genuinely underrated. It's so tough to tame. But honestly, I feel like everything in this game has become kind of easy to tame. So I honestly find myself liking the challenge. They have a headshot multiplier. You kind of need a long neck because they get really bloody. They can't be bullet as well, and they're very fast. Once tamed, though, they have a 3-seater saddle. They run very fast. They can jump. Very helpful. Very helpful, and you can even I think your 2 passengers and maybe even you can shoot off of it as well. So I'll have to put this guy probably in bottom of B tier. I think it's underrated, especially if you've ever watched Syntac, that one video he made where he had a Gallimimus kill a Giga. So I think that speaks for itself. I mean, let's be honest here. Gas bags. I could find an extinction in the wastelands. They can inflate. Not a bad soaker at all. Tamed with spirit kibble. They have very good weight, like thousands of weight, like an absurd amount of weight, unmatched in terms of weight. If you don't know how to pilot these guys, though, you will absolutely crash land and kill it. Though you can just dismount right before you hit the ground, of course. I think gas bags plus mining drill combo. Yeah, I think that alone. I think it deserves to be better than the RG for that. You need setup. Don't get me wrong, you need setup. But after you get a good setup going on that with a mining drill, and maybe you even can get some traits on this guy, like mineral bearing, since its base weight is already so high, it will be better than an RG, I find. I believe that it will be better than an RG. Though an RG is still very good. Don't get me wrong about that. Next we got... Okay, I think this now is the Giant Queen Bee. Tamed passively using rare flowers near the hive. These guys... You don't actually use it in its like bee form. You transform it into a hive, and it will passively generate honey. I'll put that in the top of A tier. I don't even really think honey is that useful. It doesn't do terribly much, and especially since they added the bio grinder, you don't need it anymore for extraordinary kibble. So like, what do you really need it for now? Like, sweet veggie cakes really is all you're gonna need it for. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Oh, next the Giga. I think the Giga is in need of a little TLC. Even if they don't change its abilities or anything, I also think just a visual redo is very deserved for the Giga. Same with like the Carno. I think if they just did a TLC for the looks of the Carno and modernized like and really improved the looks, I think the Carno would be tan more just by looks. Same thing with the Giga. I think if it just looked better as well, and it doesn't look bad, but if it looked better, more people would tame it. But I think the car just does everything the Giga does, but better. And the car is even easier to tame as well. I think the Giga deserves a spot in the top of A tier. It's a very A tier dino. I don't even think it's really S tier anymore, unfortunately. It's just not quite there. The car is just the better little brother. I believe this is the Yeti, found in Hard Snow Cave on the island and in the Ice Cave on Extinction. Yeah, they pack a punch. I'll put them... In terms of how dangerous they are, I guess... I don't know where to put these guys. I'll just put them there. Oh, the Gigantoraptor. I'll put that in S tier as well. They raise your babies. They're like kind of Mailing 2.0. Actually have pretty good attack. Harvest berries. Can incubate eggs even without AC. Can incubate like any egg for free, basically. You can pluck their feathers as well. I'll put these guys here. Very useful. They also have a glide ability like the Terror Bird. They're just the better Terror Bird. I was about to say the better Maywing, but no, they're definitely not the better Maywing. Maywing is OP. What even is that? That's a light bug from Aberration, the charge light one. They don't really do anything. They just give you a little bit of charge light when you need it. I'll put them in the bottom of F tier. They kind of do nothing. I guess the best thing they can do for you is give you some chitin. Next, the Glowtail from Aberration, found in the blue zone. Where did I put the other ones? Okay, right here. It's better than the Bulldog. I think the Featherlight is still the best, though. I think this is Hattie and Skull, if I'm remembering that correctly, from Fjordur. I'll put these guys, they're not that tough, and you can take a Giga. 1 Giga can probably kill these guys. Like 1 imprinted Giga, you got this. So I will put them in B... No. I'll put them in C tier with Bela. I'll just put them next to Bela, yeah. That sounds good. Helicoprion, another Editions Ascended Dino. It has a chance of increasing your blueprints, like quality. Kinda not necessary anymore with the tinkering bench, or desk, I mean. I've not had much experience with these guys. They don't seem that crazy. I don't think they're even... and again, with the engram problem, they have their own engram for feeding them, the ammonite treat. So for that... I think they deserve probably. I'll give them the top of B tier. I'll give them that. Ooh, Hesperornis. Next, the Hesperornis, found in like lakes and such on like especially the island. It's like the only way you're really gonna get lots of organic polymer on the island, because especially like for me, I didn't get Kairukus to spawn on the island for some reason, so these guys are my only way of organic poly. They can lay golden eggs, but honestly, that's not very useful. I'll put them for what they're worth. I'll put them in B tier. They just provide good resources, I suppose. Next, Hyenodon. I feel like these guys were like supposed to be good, but nope, they're not good. Pretty interesting taming method. You gotta tame them by petting them. But I mean, other than that, they don't got much going for them. They have that meat pack saddle. They can't be ridden. They have a pack buff though. Kind of useless. Just the worst armor doggo. Let's be honest here. Put these guys in the bottom of C tier. Oh, next Ice Titan. Honestly, I think I'm giving the Desert Titan a little too much credit here. I think the Ice Titan is the best. I mean, honestly, I'll even put the Forest Titan above the Desert Titan. I think just the Desert Titan is not bad, though. Don't get me wrong on that. It's not bad. Because it can reach those outer reach spots the other two can't. So it has that going for it. But I think the Forest Titan is better because it has, I believe, the most health out of them all. It can block as well. Ice Titan, he can jump, which is probably the best thing about him. Actually, possibly the best thing about him is that he can freeze things as well. So honestly, I think the Ice Titan is the best Titan. It's got the most going for it. It's the strongest. Yeah. Ooh, I believe this is the Ichthyornis, bottom of F tier, easy. The Ichthyosaurus, on the other hand, I'll put it in B tier. Yeah, I'll put it in B tier. You need these guys to tame Shastasaurus. They're pretty easy passive tame. They come to you. Can help open the way to ocean exploration. Don't do much though. I believe you can even shoot off them. So yeah, that's big. Next, the Iguanodon. A lot of people like to say this is an underrated beginner tame. I'll disagree. I think the reason it's underrated is they don't really spawn, honestly. There's always like parasaurs and Dilophosaurs everywhere when you spawn, usually on maps. But these guys usually don't even spawn enough. And their saddle is at like, what, level 30 something? Yeah, there's a reason these guys aren't really tamed. Who needs them to turn berries into seeds? Who honestly needs that ability? Who needs seeds that bad? Come on. They can jump. They have infinite stamina. They do good damage. But honestly, they're not worth it. I don't think... If you find them in the very early game, they're worth it. But by the time you have like a Parasaur and, a Rex, and you're at that point, they become quickly outdated. They're not needed anymore. So I'll put these guys at the top of C tier. Actually, no, I'll give it there in the B tier. Alright, next up we got the Jerboa. The Jerboa is found on Scorched Earth, just roaming around, very easy to kill. They just detect the weather that's about to happen and they warn you about it. A lot of people like to say like these guys are really important, but honestly I don't think they're important and I never find myself taming them. I think that they're kind of useless. I don't think it's that important to be warned about a dust storm. It's not like it's going to kill you or anything. I mean, it might, but yeah, I'm going to put these guys top of C tier. They have a use, but not too much, and especially outside of Scorched Earth, there's no real use. Here we have I think it's the oil jug bug. Yeah, I think it's the oil jug bug. I'm gonna put this guy. I'll put him below. Actually, oil jug bug. I'll put him right there. Next up, the Kairuku gives good organic poly. Can't really be tamed unless you have a long neck, because otherwise you'd be doing a bit too much damage. I don't find that to be that useful though. They're really only useful for the organic poly. Where should they go? Probably below Hesperornis. I think Hesperornis just do a bit more. Next, Caprasuchus. Everyone's died to one of these. Actually, not a terrible early game tame, but the issue with them, the reason no one really tames them that much is because I don't think they can be bullet, and also they can't be picked for some reason. They have a strange drag weight, I think. And you'd probably be slaughtered before you can tame one early. So that's why they don't really get tamed, and also they don't really have that many uses. Whereas the Sarco and the Dinosuchus definitely do. So I'm gonna put this guy at I'll put him right there. Next up, the Carcanos, found on Aberration, is a knockout tame, but knocked out with the catapult. Not the cannon, because the cannon will kill it, but the catapult. I think this guy is a high A tier, but he could pick, your Ankies up. He can let them farm. He can jump. He can, toss your creatures too. I think it's right below our harvesters here. It's pretty complementary to them. Next, the Kentrosaurus can't be ridden. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever even tamed one. I know, right? I don't think really anyone does. They have good reflection damage, but they're just like the weird aggressive stego that no one really cares about. I'm gonna put them in, and they're not weak. I guess you can use them in bosses. I've seen it used. So I'll put it right there. Oh, next the King Titan, my favorite boss. Probably put him, in terms of difficulty, probably I'll put him right there. He's my favorite boss. I think he's actually really cool. I like his theme is the best theme in the game, in my opinion. I like the preparation. I like that fact that they're titans. You need to tame these 3 titans basically to kill this guy. It's a very epic fight, and I love the giant mech that is involved as well. Next to the lamprey found on Aberration. It's just there to kind of save you from radiation if you're very ambitious and want to get rock drag egg really early. So I'll put this guy in C tier right there. Next, the leech. These guys can just give you swamp fever. That's the big thing with these guys. The good thing though, they drop oil and silica pearls and things like that, though not much of it, and leech blood of course, which can help you cure that swamp fever that they also give. So I'll put these guys I'll put it above the coelacanth probably. Next, alright. Next, we got the lead Sichthies found in the oceans. It can be, you can scrape meat off of it, either 50 raw fish meat or 50 raw prime fish meat. Really, the use of this guy is just to scrape the meat, and especially the prime raw fish meat, because that can help you make things like Archelon. What's it even called? The sushi, yeah, sushi. And I believe another recipe. I forget what I was thinking of, but yeah. So you could trap one of these guys and keep scraping the meat off of it, but especially if you're on like a server or a single player, like you're probably gonna do a dino wipe. So these guys aren't really worth trapping. So they have uses though. I'll admit that raw prime fish meat is very good. Other than that, these guys just like what do they even do? Nothing. They're not tameable. They sink your rafts, which are already kind of useless. I wish, if only rafts were actually more useful in the game. But these guys even further discourage that, which kind of sucks. They just encourage flyers even more. So I'm gonna put these guys in. I'll put them in B tier here. Next to the Leopleurodon. That's it sucks. I mean, it just sucks. I've seen like 3 or 4, and in a short time as well. I don't know if they changed the spawns, but I've seen quite a lot. Not tamed a single one though, because I keep seeing videos about them, and wow, they are useless. They're absolute dirt. They just buff the rarity and quality of drops, but it's only for a short time, and they're difficult to tame, and they disappear after 30 minutes of being tamed. Absolutely useless, man. So I'm gonna put these guys they have a use, but they're pretty useless. Next to the Lamantria from Scorched Earth. Let's be honest, these guys are only used to get your first Wyvern egg. Other than that, they're done. They're done for. There's nothing else they're used for. So I'll put them in C tier. They're just a stepping stone, really. And then next to the Lystrosaurus, when you pet it, it gives, I believe, a 15 or 30% XP boost to dinos around it, but it's a very short radius, and you have to keep petting it. And who's gonna do that? Let's be honest. These guys are literally just used for hide. That's literally all they are to basically everyone. So I'll put this guy over here, top of F tier. I generally think the fish is even more useful than it. Okay, next to the Mailwing, S tier, absolute S tier, but I kind of hate how fast it is. I really don't like that. It's so fast. It's so fast, it's not even reasonable anymore. I hope they nerf it in ASA. The speed a little bit, just a bit, like 20, 30%. It just needs some nerfing. Because, wow, this thing is too fast. So I'll put this guy... Actually, they don't even have genders, so, yeah. I'll put it above the... Gotcha. I mean, so far, it's one of the top here. Oh, Magmasaur from Genesis 1. Honestly, very promising dino, but kind of a disappointment. I don't feel like they do enough. If only they did more. I mean, they can harvest metal. They have a built-in forge. They have that fire spinning attack, which is quite good. They have an egg-stealing mechanic to tame, like a wyvern. They're very promising, and they're cool. And then, they also have that rich flower ability, too. They're very promising and quite cool, but, I mean, I don't feel like they do enough. They're good in, the dragon boss fight, because they're already made out of magma. They don't burn. So that's big, but I think I'll put these guys under the Giga. I think the Giga is just better and cooler. Alright, next we got the Mammoth. Yeah, I used to not tame the Mammoth because I used to tame the Beaver for wood, but then I switched to trying out the Mammoth, and I've never changed back. Mammoth is amazing. It gathers good berries, it gathers good thatch, it gathers good wood, and you can pick which one you want to harvest based on the attack that you do. It also has a 2-seater saddle with the passenger able to play drums, which has a ready for war effect, which buffs stamina regeneration and prevents you from being fear-roared by UDs and things like that. So yeah, all that. I think it's top of A tier. I think it might even be more useful than a Giga. Like, genuinely, the way I rate these is how useful they are. So I know some of you are going to disagree here, But I think a mammoth has more uses than a giga. I mean, yeah, I'm sticking to it. I think it genuinely does have more uses. Oh, next, the Managarmer, the Beach Bob's Nightmare. Very, very fast. The freeze breath attack is quite good. I think I'll put it in S tier. I'll put it in S tier. But a lower S tier is the best it's going to get from me. Oh, Manta. Yeah, these guys suck to tame. They need angler gel for some reason, even though the anglers are deep and these guys are in the shallows. And they die if you hit the land as well. They're kind of fast, I guess, but they're also quite aggressive. They break armor pretty well, I think. I just don't think that they're in the right spot in the game's progression. They need to be something other than angler gel to tame. And I think people would tame it. But as it stands, I don't think they're that worth taming. I think it's I'm going to reduce it. I think it deserves a spot in the C tier. Alright, next, the Manticore. A well-known to be easy boss. Now, with the recent buffs and element drops from bosses being buffed by 20%, and the Tribe Tower giving further buffs of element, you can get an absolutely crazy amount of element from killing this guy. Maybe upwards of 700-ish element. It's crazy. And the artifacts to spawn him in are very easy to get. The talons are easy as well if you have a nice turret setup near the Wyvern Trench. Just lure him to the turrets. You're going to get absolutely dropped, and then you just harvest the talons from the bodies. This is an absolute element farm that is just underutilized. It's just waiting to be used. I recommend you try it. I'm going to put... But, yeah, I'm mostly rating these bosses from difficulty, but Manticore deserves to be put higher just because of how useful of a boss it is. Also, it has the torpor attacks, which is actually quite unique, and I think more bosses need to have stuff like that to add a greater challenge. So I'll put them in top of A tier. Next up, Mantis can wield tools and weapons. Also can have its saddle, of course. So it has good protection, good saddle. It can jump, is breedable. Not terribly hard to tame. Fairly unique taming. Not that much, though. It's just a passive tame, but with Deathworm Horns. But that's cool. I think it's a top of A tier dino. I mean, I don't find myself really using them, though, because you'll need to dedicate your tools to them. But I mean, if you're stacked enough, you should be able to afford that. Probably better than a Giga. Yeah. And speaking of Giga, these guys can knock one out too. Give them clubs, Ascendant clubs, pump melee. You can genuinely knock out a Giga with a Mantis with clubs. I've seen it happen. Alright, next is the Mega Shalon. Genesis 1 tame. Found in the ocean biome. It has, it's like literally the Arshalon's bigger brother. You can build on top of it. It has water bubbles coming up. I think it generates rare flower passively. It's been a long time since I've even seen one of these. Long time since I played Gen 1 on Evolved, but from what I know of them, I think it's probably going to have to be a lower A tier. They don't seem terribly useful or crazy, but you can build a cool underwater base, which I'm strongly for. Cool stuff like that. Just cool bases like that. If only more people did that. So I'll put that in... Put it here. Next, the Megalania. Megalania, in my opinion, is an absolute disappointment. One of the dinos in the game that could have been cool, but wasn't. its climbing ability is very good. Uh, that I don't know exactly how to describe it, but its climbing system, it's like the way the Rock Drake and the Megalania climbs. You know what I'm talking about? The way they climb is proper, man. That's good climbing. The way like the Deinonychus climbs is absolutely terrible. So the Megalania does have that going for it. It climbs very well. It can give rabies to players if you're in PvP, but I mean, come on, who uses these in PvP? Really, all they're existing for is for the Megalania toxin at this point. And I guess you can grind them in the biogrinder for extraordinary kibble. Other than that, I mean, come on, these guys are actually useless. So I will put them in B tier, below the frog. The frog's definitely better. I think I should maybe even move the frog up a bit, actually. That ability of its to change chitin, or to get chitin and get cementing paste like that, is actually incredible. So I'm going to move them up. I'm actually going to move them up quite a lot. There you go. Next, the Megaloceros, your reindeer. Found the snow biomes and actually the redwoods. They're kind of useless. The males have horns and the females don't. That's a cool touch. I think they're not terrible early game tame, but I mean, especially on the island, by the time you get to the redwoods, you're not in the early game anymore. So I'll put these guys in B tier. Yeah, they can pull carts as well. It's yeah, I should probably have mentioned that. Guanodon can pull carts. Gallimimus can pull carts. Megaloceros can pull carts. I think the Gallimimus pulling carts is kind of crazy, though. Next, we got the Megalodon. I think the Megalodon is one of those old, outdated creatures, but it's actually kind of held up pretty well. As a good pack buff, it has one of the best bleeds in the game. It's abundant. I mean, there's not much to complain about here with this guy. I'll put him in high A tier. Good for taking out whatever that underwater boss's name on Gen 1 is. I'll probably come up here soon. Next, the Megalosaurus. The only creature in the game that has a sleep mechanic. It accrues sleep debt when it stays up, and it's stronger at night. And on Aberration, it's always night. So the Aberrant Megalosaurus, that is quite strong. I think these guys are an underrated boss dino. They actually have boss capability. Just do the boss at night, and these guys will cook the boss up for you. I'll put these guys in probably up here in A tier. Ooh, next we got the mech. Or is this the mech? Hold up, what is that? What am I looking at here? Is that the Exomech from Gen 2? I don't know. Hold up. I think that's the Exomech. Yeah, no, that's the mech right there. That's the Exomech from Gen 2. Exomech can pick stuff up like a Rhynionatha, like structures. It can also kind of go into this 2D view as if you're playing like a Empire kind of game. It's decent. I'll put it in, I guess, bottom of S tier. I'll put it there. Next to the Mega Neura. It's just literally made for the Beals Buffo. They supply you with a ton of cementing paste on the island swamp cave. Other than that, they just harass you and get rid of the little stamina you have left as a bob. So I'll put these guys in F tier. Next, the Megapithecus. I think this guy he's just a boss. He's just one of the bosses of all time, man. He's just a boss, nothing more, nothing less. Nothing very exceptional about this guy. He's just there. I think that's an A tier. Actually, no, I'm moving that down. He's just a boss, man. I think he's just in the middle. He's nothing exceptional, nothing terrible either. Next, the Megatherium. Well, the Megatherium is insane with the Bug Killer buff. Out of this world. I think it deserves a spot in S tier or high A tier. When in the right conditions, it's so good. And it can pull a cart too. So that's quite nice. I'm probably going to put it here. Bottom of S tier. I think it deserves that. Okay, next the mech from Extinction. I love the mech. It's actually very cool, and I like that. I like that you can actually build it too. I think this game has become a little overly reliant on dinos. Unpopular opinion, but I think that. I think this game just uses dinos for too many things. Oh, want this food? Tame that dino. You want, I don't know, you want that technology? Tame that dino. Even though technology should be technology, not under a dino. But I think the mech is a good change from that. Definitely an S tier. Quite high, even. Probably above. Yeah. Put the mech there. Next, the Mesopithecus. Little monkey. I don't think it's very useful. It throws poop. It can open doors. I mean, whoever opens doors with it, though. I'll put it in. I'll put it in top of F tier. No, I'll put it right there. D tier. Yeah. All right. Next up, we have the Microraptor. Bottom of F tier. Next up, we have Motor, which is the mini boss on Genesis 1 in the ocean. It can be shredded. Just use like Basilosaurus and Megalodons. You should be fine. I'll put it in the A tier. I'll give it some bonus points here because it's an underwater boss. I think we need more unique things like that. Morellatops, found on Scorched Earth. It's the camel of Scorched Earth. You kind of, I mean, you don't need it to play Scorched Earth, but it's quite recommended. Can irrigate your crops, carries water around. It's literally the Triceratops of Scorched Earth. I'll have to put this guy in upper B tier. Yeah, right there. You don't really need it, is the thing about it. Actually, I'll put it even lower. Yeah, what am I kidding? I'm putting it even lower. Yeah. Because I think you can get water from other sources, to be honest. You don't really need a Morellatops to live on Scorched Earth, even in the early game. Really, in the early game in Scorched Earth, your biggest problems are raptors, terror birds, direwolves, things like that. It's not really water. You can hit cactuses for water. You can eat cactus sap for water, and you could just go to the water for water. There's that big river in the middle of the map. So I think, honestly, they're not very necessary. They're not very, yeah, you can live without them, let's be honest. Next up, the Mosasaur. A tame that really should be good, but isn't. I actually tried the Mosasaur again after quite a while. I gotta say, does good damage, has high health, cool platform saddle, cool dino. Problem is, its maneuverability is so bad. It's clearly a 2017 dino that hasn't seen any attention since then. It has terrible movement, but it has those, stats. It has the tech saddle even as a platform saddle. Problem is, it has no maneuverability. I'll put this guy somewhere in the A tier. Probably not too high, though. Probably put him around here. Right there. Alright, next up we got the Moss Chops. It's an earlier game tame. Problem is, I think they aren't really tamed that much. I think the reason why is because they're not too common, and they a lot of the time require pretty stupid requests. Like, some will ask for giant bee honey, some rare flower. You're not gonna have that when you just spawned on the beach. So these are great, but they're not really attainable for a lot of beginners. And so me and possibly many others have started to just ignore them. You don't really need them, but they're actually really good. I believe they're even a superior kibble tame, and they're on the beach. So probably the strongest thing you're gonna find on the beaches, and like especially on the island. So I'll give this guy a high B tier. Also very good at collecting resources. He can upgrade in particular resources. You can pick which specific resources you want to upgrade into, whether it's organic poly or rare flower. You can do it. The Nameless. I mean, for the value they provide to Aberration, I think I can appreciate it. The thing I really love about Aberration is it's so unique and so different. It's not like any other map. There's no map like Aberration. I think the Nameless help contribute to that. The fact that you need light pets. They are the reason you need light pets. So for the value they provide, I'll at least put them in the B tier. Oh, the Noglin, the mind-controlling goblin from Genesis Part 2. I guess I'll put it in the high A tier, man. I mean, I don't know much about this guy. I've not really had much experience with him, but I know he's good. Next up, the Oasisaur, one of the new Bob's Tall Tales additions. The Oasisaur can resurrect dinos with their essence. I think it's so annoying, though. Kind of just tying back again to that engram thing where it kind of just sucks how every dino now, like tame dino, when they die, they have to drop a bag now with their essence in it just because of the Oasisaur. See, that's what I don't like about some of these new additions, is they're just complicating the game way too much. Now every tame creature drops a bag just for this one dino. That's kind of stupid, in my opinion. The Oasisaur is probably going to get a low A tier from me. Especially since when you resurrect dinos, you have to raise them again. Kind of gets rid of a lot of the point, which I don't mind even. Next is the Onyx, another cave dweller. Can give you Mega Rabies. It's so useless when it's tamed. Yes, these can be tamed. So I'm going to have to give this guy a low C tier. Actually, probably down to D even. Yeah, okay. Ooh, Otter. The Otter. I'll put him in S tier. The Otter can carry multiple artifacts. It gives you warmth, and it can collect silica pearls as well. When you level up melee in an Otter, it increases your insulation from hyperthermic and hypothermic sources, and it can carry multiple artifacts. It can also wear a helmet as well to give it protection. So a great tame just for those reasons. Ooh, we got Overseer. The Overseer, the last boss of the island. I don't think he's actually that difficult. And honestly, I didn't really like this fight. It's not, I don't know, something about it just was a little anticlimactic to me. put it in the A tier. Next, we got the Oviraptor, the egg-stealing raptor. Ever since ASA came out, they added the feature that they can grab eggs when in a certain radius. So you don't have to keep picking up the fertilized dino eggs anymore. Just another step in the direction of the... ARK is heading towards the direction of automation. They're adding a lot of new things that lead to automation, like Survivor Mate, like the Bio Grinder, like Oviraptor egg picking, Pegomastics gotcha crystal picking as well. They're really just automating ARK. I've found. So the Oviraptor gets... Whoa, I'm moving everything around. Bruh. I don't even know where anything was. Anyways, there's the Oviraptor. The Oviraptor, I will have to give that a good B tier. Oh, the Ovis. These guys are made to die. That's really all they're made for. They're just a slaughter animal. They're just a farm animal, really. When you harvest them, they give good mutton, which is the best meat in the game to feed carnivores, other than... It's the best food to feed to carnivores other than kibble. And then, if you have scissors, you can shear them as well for good pelt. You can get a pelt farm going with these guys. Other than that, that's what they do. So they're not bad at all. They're not gonna fight for you, obviously. So, yeah, a farm animal, and I think they deserve a low A tier. I'll give them that. All right, next the Packy, headbutting creature found around beaches. On the island, typically. This is where you'd see these guys. Yeah, these guys are kind of useless. I almost feel like they shouldn't have even added Packies to the game, but it's fine. These guys aren't great. They do some torpor with their headbutt, but not much. I'll put them in around here. Next, the Pachyrhinosaurus, aka the female trike. It can disperse, like I guess, these pheromones that make things attack it or run away from it. I mean, let's be honest, how many of us have tamed this thing? Come on. But yeah, they exist. I suppose I will put this guy in top of C tier. Next, the Paraceratherium. Good with the platform saddle. Maybe Branionatha taming, though you'd probably want to use a Bronto for that. They don't really excel in anything, though. They don't have like a tech saddle. They don't have any special abilities. So I'm gonna have to put this guy below the Bronto. Just less uses overall. Next, I think this is the Parakeet Swarm from maybe that's Gen 1. These guys just attack you in the ocean, I believe. I'm putting these guys down here in F tier. Next, the Parasaur. Every Bob's dream. Parasaur is definitely a worthy tame. It's really quite the good stepping stone. It even can be used in the late game with its detection abilities. So I'm going to put the Parasaur up. Because, yeah, C tier would be too low for a Parasaur. I'll put this guy in. I'll put him in the top of B tier. I mean, I feel like he's just better than everything here. Everything here, I think he's better than. I think it's better than Allosaurus. I think it's better than an Amargasaurus. I just think it's more useful. You're gonna use a parasaur way more than you're ever going to use an Allosaurus or an Amargasaurus. It's just true. And next we have the Pegomastics, the Grinch himself, stealing things from you. They added the new feature that it can collect gotcha crystals, which is quite nice. Again, another step towards the automation of ARK. I'll put these kinds of tames probably in the B tier. They're quality of life tames, really. They don't serve anything on their own, I guess. They just help you automate things within your base, which isn't terrible, but it also isn't, I don't know, it doesn't feel A tier worthy, but it's fine. It's quite good. Next up, I think this is the Pelagornis. Actually, kind of underrated because, and I think the reason why is because it's around, it's in the water. It's not really, doesn't really come to the beaches, and also a PT is just way too eye-watering to even be bothered with one of these. I think their saddle is at a lower level than PT. Or no, I think it might have even been higher, which is crazy. If it's higher, it's crazy. Someone might have to double check me on that one, but yeah, these guys' saddles should be lower. So they land on water. They have weight reduction on polymer as well. So they actually have some uses, but no one ever tames them. I'll put these guys in the C tier. Next up, we have the Phiomia, aka the poop machine. It's just used for poop, really. That's it. And also, if you've ever seen those crazy pig silos where they slaughter all the pigs, because it gives these guys give good hide and stuff. So there's that as well. But that's about all it does. So I'm gonna give this probably a D tier rating. Actually, C. Yeah, right there. Next up, we have the Phoenix, a pretty rare tame. Even when you see it, people don't usually tame it because it's quite a unique taming method. And also, it doesn't really do that much. It's just one of those, like I said earlier with the Megalania. I think the same goes with the Phoenix. It could have been a cool tame, but sadly, it's not. Honestly, it feels like the kind of tame that I would be putting in S tier, but unfortunately, they didn't make it very good. So I'll at least place it in the bottom of A tier. Oh, next we have the Piranha. That's definitely an F tier. What do you guys think is worse, Ichthyornis or Microraptor? Huh. I think the Microraptor's worse, in my opinion. Yeah, I'll leave him behind the Ichthyornis. Okay, next we have the... man, what's this guy called again? I keep forgetting these names because, look how many things we've gone through. Whatever, the Loch Ness Monster thing. You know what it is. It doesn't really do anything. It just has your main attack, your like M1. Other than that, it does nothing. I think it might even have a platform saddle. Maybe. The Plesiosaur, that's its name. It doesn't do much. I'll give it a B tier rating. Up here. Alright, next up, the Procoptodon. Another underrated one. And the reason why it's underrated is because you cannot bolo them. I think you used to be able to bolo them, but now you can't. I think for just that reason, people don't really tame them anymore. But if you can get past that little barricade, these guys are great, especially on Scorched Earth. That's where these guys really spawn a lot and can provide the most value. They are fast. They can hold a baby in their pouch to give extra imprint. They jump very high as well, and they can hold a player in their pouch too, by the way. They get very good berries with their kick attack as well. So actually quite a good tame as long as you can get past the bullet issue. They definitely deserve an A tier spot. Right there. All right. Oh, next up the PT. Might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't like how fast the PT is. I think it's, or not, I don't even know if it's just that. Actually, what I really don't like is how easy it is to tame. The fact that a Bob can easily take to the skies in like not even an hour just because of these guys is crazy. I think PTs are way too easy to tame. They need to, all you got to do is just bowl them, shoot them in the head 3 times with a crossbow or even just a bow in the head, and they're out. That's it. The fact that it's that easy is insane. I genuinely think it's insane. They gotta make PTs harder to tame, in my opinion. They really do. But I'll put PTs in the bottom of S tier because they are actually just that good. They're used everywhere. They're very easy to tame. Next up, Scorpion. Pulmonis Scorpius. I gave this guy a shot recently, actually, when I was playing Scorched Earth. They do good torpo damage, I'll say that, but the problem is they don't have very good weight, so, not good stats. I think they spawn quite frequently. I think they're just underrated because they're a little bit squishy. I think because people just aren't used to it, I think that's why it's underrated. Maybe it isn't even underrated, though. But I'll give this guy a B tier. Oh, Perlovia. These are tameable. You can make them bury into a mound, but the problem is they don't have a saddle, which I don't even mind. I think it's very okay to have tames that don't have saddles. I think I kind of get annoyed when people always say like, "Oh, this tame should have a saddle," or "This creature should be tameable." I think it's good to have some creatures that aren't tameable and that don't have saddles. I think that's a good thing. The Perlovia is obviously annoying, but again, it's just the challenge of ARK. I'm not gonna rate it really that bad because it kills you. That's honestly fine. So I think I'll put these guys around, I guess, D tier. Next up, the Pyromane. Bottom of F, just because it's a paid DLC. I'm not joking right now. I'm actually putting it in the bottom of F. It's genuinely shameful that they were putting this creature up for $5. It really is. It genuinely is. It's not a bad creature, but the way to get it is pretty stupid. Not gonna lie. They should never release another fantastic tame ever again, although they probably are, of course. Next up, the Quetzal. Has a platform saddle. Only like flyer in the game really to have a platform saddle. There's the Oasis Sword and there's other things, but the Quetzal is just that guy, man. I think it's just a high A tier saddle. Or I just said saddle. High A tier rating. But I put him right there. Useful for Desert Titan taming. Useful for Titanosaur taming. You could put cannons on that platform saddle there. Useful for raiding even on PvP if you know how to do it. Ooh, next up is the iconic Raptor. I think the Raptors are alright, but I think the problem with them is the fact that you gotta find multiple high levels to get like a strong pack going. And I think breeding them as well is pointless because you can go ahead and get yourself like a Carno or something better by the time you breed these guys. So I don't even think the Raptors are a stepping stone in ARK. I think they're just ignored by most people. I mean, I don't really find myself ever taming them. I think a lot of people can agree to that. So I'm going to put them in C tier. I guess I'll give them the top of C tier. Oh, next up, the Ravager from Aberration. A surprisingly quite good tame. It has weight reductions and can climb on zip lines and has pack buff as well. It's just the better Raptor, what the Raptor kind of wishes it was. I think this deserves a high B tier, maybe even a low A tier, but I think a high B tier above the Parasaur is deserved. Ooh, next up, the Reaper King. Very interesting and fun taming process. It's not like anything else. Good Dino too. It has the tail attack, which shoots those projectiles at ground flyers. It has a spin attack. It can even jump. I actually kind of forgot about that. It's kind of crazy. It can do that. Its weakness though is light pets. Because I think it has the damage reduction, but when there are light pets or any shine like light on this thing, it takes extra damage. So as long as there's no light pet around or anything, these guys really are the kings. So I'm going to put them in around S tier. I think I'm putting too many things in S tier, actually. I don't think a lot of these even maybe deserve it. I think I might got to consider a little shift here. Yeah, maybe. No, the Reaper I will put in S, though. I'll move the Megatherium down to A tier. And same with the PT. Yeah, that seems good. Alright, next, the Rex himself. I think the Rex could use a little bit of TLC, mostly in just terms of looks, but I guess it's fine if they don't change it. But the problem is the Rex is kind of, don't know if any of you have noticed it, but it's starting to get a little bit outdated. There are just better things now that the stereotypical iconic Rex can't do anymore. There are better armies to raise. The Rex does have some things going for it, though, as, it's quite the focused on Dino. You're probably going to have, like, the least glitches with it. I mean, how many people have not used the Rex, right? It's just a knockout tame. It even has a headshot now since Extinction came out on ASA. They've added a headshot multiplier on it, which is kind of crazy, making them easier to tame. They do good damage, good health too. Very mutatable in that regard. I'll give them a good A tier. Probably above the Megatherium. Next up, the Rhinonath. Definitely another S tier. Where on S tier though? Probably quite high. Yeah, maybe, around there. Seems good to me, honestly. It picks things up. It has the resin armor. It shoots resin. It can pick up your vaults. It can pick up to the size of a Rex, which is crazy. It can land on walls. I mean, this thing can do like anything. It can screech too. It's like a mini Furor. It has a passenger seat too. I mean, dude, this thing does like everything. It's really the all-in-one flyer. It's that endgame flyer. Another thing I've noticed about ARK too is, man, they've been leaning into endgame content a lot more since like ASA came out. It feels like the new players, the Bobs, kind of don't get any new content. I mean, honestly, just if you just spawn on the island and look at the beaches, they kind of look the exact same as they always have. But if you go in any other places, you're gonna see all these new dinos. It feels like they're not really adding anything for new players, especially in the Bob's Tall Tales. What you get, the gene scanner, you get the linked storage box. What do you get for the earlier game stuff? Like the best thing they've gotten is probably like the carts. They've not gotten much. I think the early game and new players need to be focused on more. I think ARK has started focusing on the dedicated players too much. I think we need to be more welcoming to new players. This game is becoming too complex, and Wildcard keeps adding creatures that are just meant for endgame players rather than the new players. Anyways, with that tangent aside, we got the Rock Drake, the Wyverns of Aberration. The Rock Drake can go invisible, it can climb on walls, it glides. It does pretty good damage. It has a tech saddle too. Just the fact that it has a saddle is quite nice. I think that's about it. But I don't want to downplay the Rock Drake. It's a good tame. Do not get me wrong about that. But the thing is, I don't think it's an S tier tame. I think it's a high A tier. Probably above the Rex. I'll give it that. Next, the Rock Elemental. Pretty tough to tame, actually, with you needing a cannon. And they need extraordinary kibble. Anything less than extraordinary kibble, and you might actually wait real life days till this tames, needing thousands and thousands of narcotics. So yeah, basically just extraordinary kibble. No less than extraordinary kibble will work for these guys. Tough to tame. They don't breed. I don't even know if these guys can be cloned. I haven't tried. So yeah, hard to come by, but quite good. They get damage reductions on, like bullets, so very good soakers. And the way the saddle is placed, since the Rock Golem has this crazy forward neck posture, you kind of sit in a safe spot so you don't get shot by turrets as long as you walk backwards into them. You can soak good turrets with this guy. So I'll definitely give him a high A tier. Maybe worse than the Rock Drake. I mean, it doesn't take Wyvern elemental attacks either. Those don't do anything to it. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I think this is the Lava Golem from Ragnarok. I mean, I don't really know what to say about this guy. I'll just put him next to the normal Rock Elemental. Next we have Rockwell Aberration. He's fairly easy. It's probably the first boss that was more than a DPS race. Like, in a literal sense. Because you gotta break the tentacles around the arena, and then you gotta attack him in, like, the center. And then you have to avoid those, like, flying orbs at you. But I do, we've all heard how it can be kind of cheesed by using a cactus broth. I'll put this one in A tier, though. Probably above the Manticore. Next, the Rat in the Hat, the Roll Rat. Rolls around. Its saddle has durability, sadly, which is kind of stupid. I mean, come on. I feel like even if it didn't have durability, people wouldn't tame it that much. But it also has durability. That's crazy. Things like the Maywing don't even have durability. It just shows how lenient they've gotten with these endgame tames. Things like the Roll Rat used to get nerfed, and because they thought they were fast. And now we get things like the Maywing for literally free. But the Roll Rat is a I think it's a B tier to me. Probably around here it will go. What is this? Huh, is that supposed to be Steinbjorn from Fjordur? Yeah, I think that's supposed to be Steinbjorn. The rock boss from Fjordur in the cold realm. I forgot the name of it, but I believe it's Jotunheim. Yeah, Jotunheim. I think the hardest of the 3 Fjordur mini bosses. So I'll put him in high A. Next up, the Sabertooth. Good gatherer of like hide and chitin. So it's good at collecting the resources from bodies. Other than that, doesn't do much damage, doesn't have a pack buff. So I'll put him above the Raptor. I think it's deserving of that. And you can also shoot well on it. So next to Sabertooth Salmon. I'll just put it next to its fish buddy above, though. I think it's better than the coelacanth, especially for taming. Next, the Sarco. So the Sarco is found in the swamp, and can hit to turn whenever it wants. It has a death roll attack, as a leap attack. I think these guys probably belong in high B tier. They swim very fast as well and have almost instantaneous stamina regen as well. So very worth taming if there's a lot of water on your map. Next, I think this is the Scout from Extinction. Pretty useless, I'm not gonna lie. Pretty useless. Especially with photo mode, you already get a built-in mini Scout. There's almost no reason for them anymore. Next up, I think this is I think this is a Seeker from Aberration, found in the red zone. I'll just put it next to where I put the Nameless. Yeah, that's fine. Oh my, the Shadow Mane. Why is the Shadow Mane so OP? I don't understand. The newer the DLC, the more OP the creatures. I'm telling you, there's Dino inflation, man. It just gets way OP with time. The Shadow Mane is crazy. It has a water hydration buff like the Spino. It has a male roar. If you're on a male and you roar, it gets a buff, and then if you're on a female, it gets a different buff. You can jump very, very high with it, like very high. You can swim underwater too. I don't even think it has an oxygen stat even. They're breedable. They have natural armor, so you don't even need a saddle. There's already a built-in saddle. They have these teleporting attacks. They do good damage. They have lots of health. And I think you can even shoot off the back as well. The crazy thing is, I don't even think I named all the abilities right there. This thing is insane. I'm going to put this very high up. Probably better than the Maewing. I think, the Maewing's great, but really it's just there for transportation. It's not going to fight anything for you, really. It's not going to do much damage at all. Alright. So, next up, the Shinehorn. Another light pet. I'll just put it in with the other light pets. I'll put this, I guess I'll put this guy here. I think the Glowtail and Featherlight just look better. I mean, even I think the Glowtail looks best, actually. Kind of like the Glowtail the best. Alright. Next, the Sonoma Crops from Lost Island. It's literally a built-in natural jetpack. It's what the Archaeopteryx wishes it was. You can fly with this thing. You can glide with it while it's, hanging on your shoulders. It's literally a natural jetpack. It's insane. I think the Cinnamocrops deserves S tier above the Otter. I'm going to actually do, yeah. That sounds about right. Cinnamocrops also has a screech ability to scare off small insects and small creatures. It also eats chitin as well. Very good tame. Next up, the Snow Owl from Extinction. These guys have a good healing ability. One of the best in the game. They also have, for their third ability, they can do a night vision kind of mode, or not night vision, but a heat detection kind of filter. So they're pretty easy to tame. They're found in the snow biome on Extinction. I think they deserve a high A tier. Probably above the Rock Drake. Yeah, that seems good. They also drop Snow Owl pellets for your gotchas up here, so that's good as well. Next is Spino. The Spino is an underrated dino. I think the reason it's underrated is because it is. I think it's because it's rarer than the Rex. I mean, and I think it has a slight lack of abilities. I think it can, if only it did one more slightly cool thing, and it spawned more, I think people would tame it. Even I don't tame it, but I feel like people should. It just doesn't feel worth it enough to go out of your way for. So the Spino will have to go in the lower A tier. Probably worse than the Baryonyx, even. Next up, the Stego, the PvP soaker. You can even shoot rockets while on this guy in PvP and not get hit. So very good at running your turrets there. It has 3 different plate modes, like the hardened one, I don't even remember them all, but there's one for attacking, one for harvesting, one for defense. It's very slow, decent at collecting berries. Other than PvP, no one tames this on PvE, let's be honest. So that's probably going to have to tank its rating a little bit. And I'll probably put this in high B tier. Next up, what even is that? I think that's supposed to be a polar bear. Because I think I already did the dire bear. So I'll put this guy next to the dire bear. I think this is just supposed to be the polar bear or something. Actually, I might be getting that one wrong. It doesn't look like the polar bear, but I don't know. So I'm just gonna put that there. Ooh, the Tech Strider. S tier. New with Genesis 2. It's the new gatherer. It just does everything the Enki, the Doedicurus, the Phaseolasuchus, anything. It just harvests everything better. Probably second to Rhinianatha. Notice how there's 3 Gen 2 creatures right here. Crazy. It's like the newer DLCs just get better. They really do. I wonder what we're going to get in Lost Colony. Next we got this thing from Genesis 2 in the Rockwell's Innards biome. I'll just put it around here. What do I say about that? Next is the tape jar. The tape in the jar. I think people don't tame this thing because it flies away so fast. It's so skittish. It's crazy. It's slower than a PT. It can strafe left to right, but that's not worth the pain of going out and trying to knock this thing out when it's so skittish. It has a tech saddle too, so that's quite nice. And I think it belongs in um I'll put it in low A tier. Ooh, next to Terrorbird. It's just a raptor without a pack buff, so it has higher stats on its own, and it can flap its wings to glide long distances. So I think it's a better raptor. That's what I think. Still think the Sabertooth is probably better than both. Next to Therizino, I think it deserves a high A tier. By the top of A tier. I'm putting the bosses in their own section, by the way. But yeah, high A tier. Maybe even S tier. I mean, all that is wrong with them is they're just slow. That's about it. Other than that, they do everything you could possibly ask for. They harvest, and they're a good boss fighting dino as well. Yeah, I think it should go to S tier. I think I'll put it around here. Alright, next up, the Thorny Dragon. An earlier game tame from Scorched Earth. It can gather wood, but in my experience, they're not worth on Scorched Earth for getting wood. Just craft a chainsaw, man. There's a reason there's a chainsaw engram on Scorched Earth. That's the way to go, not Thorny Dragon. So I'm giving this guy a low C tier rating, and his thorn attack does 0 torpor. I literally have, I have damage numbers on, right? It literally does 0. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't knock things out at all. Oh, next to Thyla, I'll put that in high A tier. I think right there is good. It doesn't do much other than fight, so that's what this dino really is. The Thyla fights, and it travels as well pretty well. If you know how to use its jump, you spam jump, and you can travel across the map in seconds, man. Especially going up like fairly steep mountains, but not too steep. These guys can absolutely go at the speed of light if you do it right, if you know how. They have a good climbability. They bleed. You can shoot well off the back of them too, and they look pretty nice too. Next up, we got the Titanomirma drone. These guys can be found either, I think, flying or crawling. Or no, I think that's the other one. No, okay, so that's a Meganeura. These are the Titanomirmas. And there are Titanomirma drones. So there are 2 different kinds, I think. So I'll put those guys in the same spot. Next to the Titanoboa. Honestly, just a sad, washed up tame, man. There's no point to this thing. Put it in low D tier. Titanosaur need to be knocked out by using a cannon. Can help to use a Quetzal or a mech to knock it out, or even a Dreadnoughtus now. I think these guys deserve somewhere in A tier because their platform style is massive, especially really if you're on single player or a private server. If you have, raid dino food consumption down so you can keep them longer or even forever, then I think they're especially good because then you can actually use them. So I think they deserve a spot in the A tier, but not very high. Next up, the Triceratops. I think it's better than its Morellatops, kind of counterpart. I'll put it around there. I don't ever find myself actually taming Triceratops. I don't know. Me personally, I don't find myself really taming them because they're kind of tough in the early game with that, the front and the horns and stuff. It takes damage reduction on the front. It's tough to knock out because all the trikes around it will try and kill you. They're fairly fast and they have that charge attack as well. Next to Trilobite. We've all found a trilobite on the beaches of the island and harvested it for like black pearls and stuff. So pretty helpful, but not for long. I think it just deserves to be with these deep sea creatures that give those kinds of things. But I think it's the best out of these two. Now next to the Troodon. Every Bob's nightmare. I'll put it right there. You can fend off from Troodons with torches, by the way. They're scared of fire. For those who don't know, Troodons are the little creatures that attack you at night and knock you out. So use torches and fire to scare them off. Next, the Tropionathus. I might be saying that wrong, actually. I'm not too familiar with the Crystal Isles stuff. I haven't really played much Crystal Isles, honestly. It's the jetpack. It's the fighter jet, Dino. I think it's kind of unfortunate because it has a fairly cool taming method, but I think the fact that you need to spend like gasoline and stuff on it to use it really discourages people. Why would you use this when you have like a Rhinounatha that just needs sap and can attack for free? Why would you spend resources to attack with this thing? That's kind of the problem, and it's not exactly exceptional for that either. So I'm gonna put this guy in probably above the Tapijar, low A tier. Next, the murder turkeys. Oh my. These things just don't die. I don't know. Off sheer power alone, these guys are going to have to go in like S tier, man. They just don't die. But I'll give it lower S tier. It's not really a real dino, so. Ooh, the Tusoteuthis. An underwater octopus tame. It can grab things and slowly induce torpor. It swims fairly fast as the ink, which lets it go faster and blind everything. Yeah, it's a pretty good tame. It can grab a lot of the sea creatures as well. It's a good tame. I think it deserves a high A tier. Oh, next the unicorn, just a version of the Equus. I'll give it a little bit of bonus points then for that, but not many. I think it's just above the Equus, of course. Next, the Velonosaur, found in the desert biomes of extinction. This thing absolutely shreds. It's one of the few dinos with like an actual ranged attack. It's literally a turret, but a dinosaur. They shred. If you haven't tamed one, do it. Top of A tier. I think that's safe to say. Next, the Void Worm. It's like the Wyvern on Genesis 2. I haven't really used these guys, but I'll put them. I don't know. I'll put them near these space dolphins. Next, the Vulture, found in scorched earth around the deserts and the dunes mostly. I mean, everything on that map is a desert, so yeah, the dunes. It just does damage on your shoulder. That's literally about it. So, pretty low. Next, the woolly rhino. Can be good when charging it up. Mostly just poached for their horns and fur. But I guess they're alright. I'll at least just put them in lower A. I don't got much to say about them though. Next are the wyverns. I'm gonna, count this as all 3 types. Or I guess 4 even. I think the wyvern is S tier. It's just plainly S tier. I think it should go right there. It can pick up medium-sized creatures, bigger than the RG though. The RG is like medium creatures, but it's like lower medium, kind of lower mid type creatures, like up to like Parasaur. Wyvern can carry up to like Stego, so higher. So that's good. And then it has the fire and lightning and poison breath, which do such good damage. And the lightning 1 and 2 is torpor. The fire can even damage riders now, I think. So that makes poison completely useless, as if it wasn't already. They're a flyer as well, of course, and they have that wing flapping attack as well, to harvest thatch on top of that and knock things back. And they also fly fast as well. So that's pretty crazy. Next is Iphaxtinus, an Editions Ascended creature, introduced just a couple months ago here. I'll give this guy pretty high A tier. Yeah, it can also flop on land. I did forget about that. So, trying to keep things generally together, I'll actually rate this guy above the Megalodon. Next, I think this is just the Yeti. Did I not already do this? Yeah, up here. I really don't know which. I think this is the Gigantopithecus. This is the Yeti. But yeah, just put those guys in the same spot. Next is the Yeeling, the new ARK Ascended addition to Aberration. It kind of glides. It has a unique taming method where you need to kind of throw plant species wide, stun things at it, and then feed it. I've not actually used it yet, so I can't say much about it, but I will put it, if it would allow me, I will put it in lower A tier. Next is the Yeti. And I believe the Yeti here is our final dino, because the rest of these are just modded, and I'm not going to be going over these extra modded ones. So, last but certainly not least, the Eutyrannus. S tier, for sure. Yeah. Alright, I think that's the tier list. Okay, so that's my tier list right here. There is a lot. It does not fit on one page, unfortunately, but yeah, that is my tier list. Let me know if you guys agree with me. That took quite a while, but yeah, went through every dino. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you guys for watching, if you've watched for this long. And I'll catch you later. Goodbye.